Namaskar, hello and a very warm welcome viewers. You're watching Committee Report with your host Kriti Mishra. Today we'll take a closer look at the report of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Personnel, Public Grievances, Law and Justice on strengthening of Grievance Redressal Mechanism of Government of India. The Public Grievance Redressal Mechanism functions in Government of India on a decentralized basis. The central government, the ministries or departments, their attached and subordinate offices and the autonomous bodies have their respective grievance redress machinery. An officer of the level of Joint Secretary is required to be designated as Director of Grievances of the ministry or department or organization. A grievance redressed is disposed within a period of 2 months, and in case of a delay, an interim reply with reasons for delay should be furnished. However, there are certain issues which do not fall within the scope of grievance redressal, such as sub-judice cases or any matter concerning judgment given by any court, personal and family disputes, RTI matters, anything that impacts territorial integrity of India or friendly relations with other countries. And before we commence our discussion, here's a detailed report for our viewers on key observations and recommendations of the committee. Take a look. Grievance redressal mechanism of an organization is an important instrument to measure its effectiveness as it provides feedback on the working of the organization. The grievances of public are received at various points in Government of India. There are primarily 2 designated nodal agencies in the central government handling these grievances. These agencies are Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, and Directorate of Public Grievances, Cabinet Secretariat. The committee noted that wide variations exist across ministries and other organizations with respect to the framework process and the capacity to handle grievances. Timely redressal of grievances is necessary for a citizen-friendly administration. The committee recommended an overall review or evaluation of the grievance handling process by all ministries. Central Public Grievance Redress and Monitoring System is an online portal available to the public to lodge their grievances against various authorities. The grievances are transferred to the concerned ministry and the state government. The committee recommended including certain things while reforming the portal. These include opening channels for effective communication, making the portal user-friendly, and involving stakeholders in the reform process. And for deeper insights on the Grievance Redressal Mechanism of India and the key recommendations of the committee, I'm joined by an illustrious panel of guests. Joining us on the program through virtual platform, Mr. Vivek Tankha, member of the Rajya Sabha and senior advocate, and Dr. Sasmit Patra, member of the Upper House and advocate as well. Both Mr. Tankha and Dr. Patra are members of the Committee on Personal Public Grievances, Law and Justice. I welcome you both on Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us. And Mr. Tankha, let me begin the program with you. The committee identified the subject to examine the grievance redressal machinery of Government of India and to identify the shortcomings therein and to suggest measures so as to facilitate effective and efficient redressal of public grievances. So what are the major hindrances impacting the redressal process and what are the suitable reforms according to you?
Kritiji, first of all, thank you for inviting us for this program. We're happy to be amongst your viewers. But let me start by saying that this is not a new issue. This issue has been dealt with by many administrative reform commissions. The problem of India is that we make a lot of suggestions. We give a lot of these commissions have given a lot of food for thought. But the problem is that at the end of the day, we don't implement them. And if it's implemented, the quality of implementation is very poor. Now, during the course of this committee's deliberation, I remember very distinctly, I was not there on all the hearings, but I was there in some of them. I would ask questions like, you have a committee, for instance, to ameliorate problems of pension. Then why do people go to court? If old people, retired people in large numbers are going to court to get their pension status rectified, to get their pension started, because I've seen it happening all the time in courts. What about Lok Adalats? Now, if there is no Lok Adalat, what happens to all the complaints which could be redressed by the Lok Adalat and are not redressed? If you could redress it through a Lok Adalat, why can't your own system do it? Redressal means that in your own system, you are able to take action on complaints of it could be your own people, or it could be the public at large. My experience of these systems is that it's very few and very rare people are able to get justice from this internal mechanism, because the mechanism itself is very biased. Generally, their first attempt is to uphold what they have said.
Yes.
And this, according to me, the mindset has to change. We may give any number of reports. If the mindset is not to do justice, and if the people who are assigned this job to do justice at any level are not accountable for what they are not doing or doing, things will not change. So I'm happy that the recommendations have come, but I would like to see them implemented. That is what doesn't happen.
All right, so two very important points that you made, that the mindset has to change, and also a very important point about Lok Adalat. Sir, we'll just get into. But before that, Dr. Patra, before talking about the specifics of the report, observations of the report and recommendations of the report, for the knowledge of our viewers, let's deconstruct few things. A, how do I lodge my grievance? And B, how do I track my grievance?
To lodge your grievance, firstly, before I start, I'd like to thank you and the Sansad TV for inviting me. And it's such a privilege and a pleasure to be in the august company of my senior colleague and senior advocate, Shri Vivek Tankhaji. And to start with your first question regarding how do we lodge a certain complaint, a public grievance. So for that, there is a portal, which is pgportal.gov.in, which primarily is the portal that takes care of the centralized public grievance redress and monitoring system, or CP-GRAMS. Now, CP-GRAMS is the format based on which someone goes online and does the filing of the online. To do that, we also have a mobile app. And to do it, you have to go to the login. And in the login, if you're a first-time user, you have to provide certain personal details. After providing those personal details, you get a user ID password. You use the user ID password in terms of entering your certain details, just like an online platform. And that is how you go in and you lodge your grievance. So on the website of the Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances, Government of India, you find the redress process as well as the details about how to file the grievance. Now, coming to the redress procedure, as you mentioned, and the grievance that a person files is transmitted to the PGO or the field office. Once it gets to the field office, thereafter it also goes on to the respective portals of the concerned departments, depending on its sorting. And once it goes there, thereafter the resolution, you've already mentioned about the resolution timings. So the resolution takes place and the citizen is informed about the resolution of the grievance through an SMS or an email. And as well as there is a feedback mechanism by which the person says whether the person is satisfied or dissatisfied. If he or she is dissatisfied, then the process goes on to an appellate authority who is also there. And thereafter the final resolution happens. This is how the process of lodging. And if someone wants to track the grievance as well, they can very well go online and use the same login ID in order to see the status of their grievance.
All right, Dr. Patra, thank you so much for explaining that process to us. But Mr. Tankha, you were talking about Lok Adalats. Sir, how do we strengthen public interface mechanisms for redressal with Lok Adalats or Jan Sunwais, wherever feasible, taking it to the doorstep of the people?
Well, Kriti, I'll tell you my personal experience, because most of the things I mentioned today is out of my own experience of the system.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
A very vibrant system of, say, the Chief Minister helpline. I see it in Madhya Pradesh also. Now, what maximum complaints by people are sent to CM helpline. Now, what is a CM helpline? There is a call center. And there are people sitting in the call center with no knowledge of the subject that is being told to them, rather than which they have to process. All that they do is they send it to the relevant person. Suppose I want a case registered against Sushmit. So I will send a complaint that Sushmit is a very bad person. He's done this to me, that to me, and say that the police is not accepting my word and they're not registering a case. So please direct the SP to do it. There are lots of complaints of this nature. Now, what the SP does is, once it comes from the CM helpline, even if it amounts to injustice, he would register the complaint. All the time I see this because he says I have to otherwise answer. I'll have to give an explanation. Nobody is going to understand my explanation. That explanation will call for another explanation. So easiest thing is to register a case, unless he has some interest not to register. So what I'm trying to say again and again is, if you really want to help people, there has to be application of mind at every stage, and there has to be quality application of mind. Whether it be public servants, whether it be public, whether it be your own employees, I'm not talking of any category. And you have to be open for that redressal. My problem in this country is that very often the system is a closed system. You go to the Lok Adalat. Have you been to a Lok Adalat? I've been to many Lok Adalats. My juniors sit in the Lok Adalat so often. I've seen that. Now what happens is, they are virtually persuading the departments who can say yes, like insurance companies. Arey मान जाओ भाई, थोड़ा सा और दे दो. अरे मान जाओ भाई, थोड़ा सा और दे दो. So थोड़ा सा और मिल जाता है. It is not justice in that sense. It's not, you're not, maybe he was entitled to more. Or maybe he was entitled to less. I can't even say that. It's a specific case which demands its own merits. But my problem is, this mechanism is there, and we have these big Lok Adalat melas or Jan Sudhai melas where you sit like an overlord, as if you are sitting as a god who's dispensing justice to hundreds of people. I don't like that.
Right.
I don't appreciate that. Anybody sitting as a senior person, whether it be a judge or a lawyer, because it's a combination of people who sit in these Lok Adalats, judges and lawyers. You are sitting as friends. You're sitting as equals. So my problem in this country is, unless this colonial mindset of the people being like beggars and the people dispensing justice being the lords and masters, unless that concept changes,
yes,
I don't see how quality justice is going to be dispensed at a public platform.
All right, since we're talking about public platform, there's another initiative that the Government of India is taking. Dr. Patra, you talked about centralized public grievance redress and monitoring system. And the government is also making way for One Nation, One Grievance Redressal portal. Help us decode that.
You see, as we understand that CP Grams is a grievance redressal mechanism at the central level, at the Union of India level. But you also have, just like Shri Vivek Tankaji said, that like in Madhya Pradesh or different other states, each state also has a grievance redressal mechanism. Now, what happens is, many a times, when the centralized mechanism, that is the CP Grams, is there at the Union of India level, many of the complaints that come there, grievances that come there, actually pertain to the respective states or to matters which are actually dealt by states. So what happens is, many a times it's being seen by the committee, again, going by the report of the committee that was released, which you have been referring to. If we go by the committee's report also, the committee has said that we find there are a number of cases, maximum cases, which are actually pertaining to state issues, but have been sent to CP Grams at the Union of India. So what CP Grams does it therefore forwards it to the respective state. Now there has to be an integration between CP Grams at the central union level and the state portals, which are also grievance redressal portals, so that there can be seamless transmission of grievances. Now, Jammu and Kashmir is the only state, as per the committee's report, which has truly synchronized or aligned their state portal with the center's portal. So the idea behind One Nation, One Portal or one nation, one such grievance redressal platform is to ensure that there is a seamless transfer of grievances from the centers to the state. And when the disposal at the states happen, it again comes back as a feedback to the center so that the center also closes its side of the loop.
Yes.
So therefore, that is the idea. But the concern that is there is it should not impinge on the federal structure of the country, because the center has its own roles, the state has its own roles, both have their respective powers and jurisdiction. So therefore, in terms of the disposal and the decision of disposal of the states should not be again questioned by the center. So those protocols, those nuances have to be taken care of while we go ahead with a one nation, one portal kind of a policy.
All right, that's again a very valid point that you're raising. But before that, Mr. Tanka, again for the benefit and for the knowledge of our viewers, what action can be taken by the complainant in case of non-redressal of the grievance within the prescribed time limit?
You can file an appeal. That's the simplest, because there is a timeline prescribed for decision making. If the decision making doesn't come, a non-decision is also a decision. If there is no decision within the time, it's like a no. So you can file an appeal. There are judgments to that effect. But the more important thing is, I appreciate what my learned friend Sushmit is saying, that there is a portal here, there's a portal there, there's seamless transmission of complaints from center to state and state to center. But these are only processes, my dear. My problem is the emphasis is too much on process and too little on content. Because I have seen these things from the closest of levels. So I'm happy, I don't mind what process you adopt. You adopt one process, but one process cannot be there in a country like India, because each state is a federal unit, and each federal unit has its own subjects, and those subjects cannot be in a sense addressed by center, or central subjects cannot be addressed by state. So there really can never be one system. There will have to be a decentralized system. The states will have to have their own redressal mechanisms. The center will have to have its own redressal mechanism. And within the state also, you have units and subunits. You'll have to have district level mechanisms. Within the district, you may have municipal level mechanisms, panchayat level mechanisms. So as I said, it's a very complex web, and it's a very hybrid issue, and it's not easy to fathom. But yes, a beginning is a good beginning. I always welcome a beginning if it is for a good purpose and with a good object. So whatever is happening is good, but we should keep on improving.
So, all right, whatever is happening is good, but we need to improve upon that. Dr. Patra, how do we ensure that CP Grams that plays the role of a facilitator for the public without impinging on the nature of federalism? What are your thoughts on that?
You see, before I approach that point, I would just like to add and complement the point made by my senior colleague Sri Tankaji, because it's very important that while the grievances are redressed, and that is also referred to in the committee's report on serial number 2.6 of the committee's report, where the committee noted that there was a lot of eagerness by established instructions that grievances are being quickly disposed of, but the quality and the quantity both have to be managed properly. It is not that we have got 96% disposal, so therefore it's a great thing. What happens to the efficiency, effectiveness, and content, and whether the quality of the grievance redressal and resolution is appropriate, proper, or not, and does it really satisfy the needs of the person who has filed a grievance, I think is a key issue. Coming to the point that you have made, I believe very strongly, and Sri Tankaji put it very, very succinctly and very articulately, that the center and the states both have different roles and both have different matters, just like we have a state list, a center list, and a concurrent list.
Yes.
Grievances come, and because we are looking at one nation, one grievance portal kind of a framework that the center is thinking about, we have to be very careful to see that the matters of the states are left to the states and the matters of the center are left to the center. And when it comes to the matters of concurrent, again, there should not be a tug of war between the state and the center, Neither should each one of them hold judgment on the other's grievance resolution process or grievance resolution quality. So I believe federalism is something which is extremely crucial that should be protected. So while we do see that there is CP grants, but as you rightly mentioned, it should play the role of a facilitator, but not become a judge in a way that it should start judging whether the states are implementing or resolving those grievances properly. So my final thoughts would be federalism and the federal structure should be protected, should be respected. The center has its role, the states have their roles, and both should come together in a more, how should I put it, in a more unanimous way in terms of ensuring that the grievance redressal happens effectively, not quickly. Quickness and more issues being resolved is not the concern. The quality of resolution of those grievances are equally critical. The content, as Shri Tankaji said, is more important than probably only process.
All right, so those were the important observations and the recommendations of the committee. And the committee provided these valuable inputs after several meetings with all the stakeholders spanning over months. Here's a report for our viewers. The department-related Parliamentary Standing Committee on Personnel, Public Grievances, Law and Justice took up the subject, strengthening of grievance redressal mechanism of Government of India for detailed examination. The committee held intensive deliberations with the Secretary, Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances on 9 December 2020 and 18 January 2021. During the meetings, the committee discussed the structure of grievance redressal mechanism in the country, the present system of grievance redressal, loopholes in its working and measures contemplated by the department to improve the system further. The committee considered and adopted the report in its meeting held on the 8th of December 2021, and it was presented to Parliament on 10th of December 2021. And time for closing comments from both my guests. Mr. Tanka, coming to you first.
I completely agree that this is the need of the hour. Strengthening, without strengthening it, we can't improve our governance. And my grievance with the governance is that poor governance leads to more problems. The redressal arises only because of poor governance. If you improve your governance, these things will get reduced on their own. If governments work well, there will be less work in court.
Right.
There won't be as many writ petitions that you get in India. They don't get in any part of the world. Why? Officers don't take decisions, even in similar matters which have been decided by court. They will say, court jaiye aur ek aur order le aiye to hum implement kar denge. Now, how do you combat this?
Right.
This mindset, as I am saying, that the problem is the mindset. I wish somewhere governance improves, and when governance improves, all this automatically happens, because then you'll have a happier lot of people, more satisfied people, and they will feel justified with what they are doing and their existence.
All right, Dr. Patra, your closing remarks.
You see, when we talk about grievance redressal, and I completely second the idea by Shri Tankaji, that we just hope and wish that there is no grievance in the first place. So if there is no grievance in the first place, there is no need for a grievance redressal and therefore a process. But considering that we are a 130 crore population, I'm sure there's going to be some amount of concern in terms of grievance redressal and resolution. So one way, of course, is to improve governance. And second is to keep a watch on the quality of grievance redressal. Grievance redressal should not be for only numbers' sake, that we had 100 grievances and 98 of them has been disposed of. Disposal of a grievance is not the concern. The quality of grievance redressal is more important. The grievance that was lodged, has that grievance been met? Has that grievance been eliminated? Is the person who filed that grievance is now aggrieved, or is he relieved? If those concerns and that quality feedback is not taken in, then we will be only looking at numbers of grievance redressal and resolution, but not the quality. And that is something that is there also in the committee's report, where the committee clearly mentions that we are not only concerned about the speedy nature of grievance redressal, but the content and the quality of grievance redressal as well.
So the focus also has to be on quality along with the quantity. And with that note, it's a wrap on the show. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Tanka and Dr. Patra. Next week, we'll return with key highlights of another parliamentary committee report. Till then, take care and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.